And we jump back into it, guys, as we are discussing Florida versus Tennessee. And moment of truth, Tennessee has not won a game in Gainesville since 2003. I know that's been the big stat that's been thrown out there. Florida does lead the all-time series 31-21, but none of that means anything. This Saturday, it just matters who's the better team, who can execute. So, Eric, we'll start with you. What do the Vols need to do to beat the Gators on Saturday night?
Fast start. I think getting off to a fast start, trying to take this crowd out of the game. And again, I mentioned earlier, if Tennessee is up, I don't think Florida, and Brandon, you can chime in on this, please, but I don't think Florida's built to come back. I think Florida's built to be in ball games and to have the lead, but I think Florida is not as well equipped as Tennessee to come back down a score, down 10 points or whatever. So first quarter is going to be huge. First day. We always talk about middle late. And Tennessee, through 2 games, has done a really great job in the middle late. Did a great job against Virginia. Did a great job against Austin Peay. You want to win the middle late every game, but the first 8, I think, is going to be critical for Tennessee this week. You got to get off to a fast start. So get off to a fast start, run the football. Everybody's saying Joe Milton, passing attack, air raid, all this type of stuff. Tennessee runs the football 50% of the time, and has since Josh Heupel's been here. Tennessee led the nation in rushing touchdowns last year, and Jalen Wright is good. Run the football, allow that to open up the rest of the offense, have some confidence, start fast, and put the pressure on Billy Napier, put the pressure on Florida, and try to get them out of their comfort zone a little bit. I think Florida's also going to be more. I think Florida might be taking some shots and trying to do some things early on to try to get up on the lead and put the pressure on Tennessee. So be ready for that as well.
Yeah, Tennessee, by the way, ranks currently 4th in rushing offense in the country, and Jalen Wright and Jabari Small both in the top 5 in the SEC in rushing numbers right now. Crazy to think that Tennessee's got not 1 but 2 running backs top 5 in the SEC in rushing right now. I thought it might be Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, but long season to go. They could certainly find their way there as Florida goes along. Brandon, what do the Gators have to do to beat the Vols on Saturday night?
I think that first off, Cain, you're totally right. Florida's not a team that's like built to come back from down 10 points or anything like that. I think they could do it if they do have a lot of time to do it. But I think that, as every drive goes and you don't cut that lead, then it gets way less likely. I think for Florida, a lot of it is establishing that run. I do think that Billy Napier loves the running clock more than anybody else on the planet right now. I think he's like, oh, that's the best rule change ever, because what Billy Napier wants to do is just dominate time of possession, especially when you have an offense like the Tennessee Vols do. So I think that that's going to be a big approach here, and I think that that's what Florida has to do here. I think they've got more dynamic playmakers than they've ever had, or under Billy Napier, but it's, can you actually get that going consistently? Because that's something where we saw Ricky Pearsall had a ton of targets against Utah, but they were all really short targets, and it's about creating yards after catch there. Eugene Wilson III, true freshman, has looked awesome every time he's touched the football. Like, the way that I know he's a special playmaker is every time he touches the football, I'm just like, is he about to house this? He hasn't yet, but every time he does, I'm like, oh, he's dynamic as hell. But I think for Florida, it's about really dominating that time of possession, not letting the Volunteer offense get into a rhythm. I think that's a big part because with an up-tempo offense like Tennessee, when you go and go and go, if you convert first downs and you can get into a rhythm, you're way more lethal than if you're on the field, you get a 3-and-out, or you get 1 first down, and then you have to punt, and then you're not on the field again for another 6 minutes. That really is going to just take the life out of the sail. So I think for me and for Florida, if you want to win this game, you have to really dominate time of possession, and you have to do it in the right way. Don't dominate time of possession because they're scoring so fast. Dominate time of possession because your defense is making plays, and then your offense is just like, yeah, no, we're just going to keep the ball out of Joe Milton's hands and keep the ball out of Josh Heupel's mind, really. And I think that's how you have to win the game if you're the Florida Gators.
Pearsall, by the way, top 5 in the SEC in receiving yards. I can't remember the last Florida Gator receiver that was top 5 in the SEC in receiving yards. Brandon, we'll stick with you. Give me, what's your official score prediction? Who wins?
I don't care if I sound like a homer. I'm picking Florida, and I'm going 28-24. For me, I think it's very hard to come into the Swamp and win a football game. I don't even know why I said I think. It's a fact. It's very hard to come into the Swamp and win a football game, especially with a Florida Gators defense that stick with me, looks competent this year. We haven't had that in about 5 years. So I'm very happy to see that. So with a Florida Gators defense that looks like they can actually make plays, I feel like I'm going to faint just talking about it. But I think Florida being able to make plays defensively is actually a great thing, where you also combine that with the swamp. And Cain mentioned before, there's procedural issues that could happen with a rocking crowd. You're not taking that crowd out of the game unless you make it like Dallas Cowboys versus New York Giants the other day. And it's like 16-0 really quick. And that ain't happening. So I think that the crowd is going to play a part in it. Joe Milton, last time he came to the Swamp, got benched. It was a rough one for him there. So very interested to see how Florida's defense really shows up and how their crowd kind of tries to take Tennessee out of it. But I think Florida 28-24. Eric,
score prediction?
Milton was benched before the Florida game in 21. Hendon Hooker did get hurt, though, at Florida. If Tennessee can, not exactly like they did LSU last year, because, I mean, that was just LSU fumbles the opening kickoff. Tennessee goes down there, and it's like 40 to – it's like Dallas Cowboys the other night. It's like 14-0 here in a hurry. But if you can get off to a start like that, I think would be huge. Real quick, Brandon, there's some youth at safety, right? I mean, those two safeties played forever. They're gone. Isn't there a true freshman starting at safety this year?
There is a true freshman starting at safety, yes.
It could be another key to the game, like trying to pick on that youth and experience, right? I said all off season, I was like, Tennessee's going to win this game. And again, it's 1 year does not correlate to the current year. You know, history of this series, it's great, you know, whatever, but it has nothing to do with this game. I get all that, but you still haven't won in the Swamp in 20 years. I mean, it's been since 2003. You haven't won back-to-back games in this series since 2003-04. The 2004 game at Neyland, the 51-yard field goal, James Wilhoit. I mean, I was at that game. I was in like third or fourth grade, whatever. It's been forever. So it's wild to say, you know, anytime you say Tennessee's going to beat Florida, just because the series lately is just not, you know, dictated that. But I've said all offseason, I said Tennessee's going to win this game down in the Swamp. I'm not going to change my tune. Even last week, inspired offensive football, I'm not going to change my tune. But I think Tennessee's got to stick to those keys, get off to a fast start. Joe Milton's got to hit some down the field. Tennessee's got to run the football. And Tennessee has got to make Graham Mertz super uncomfortable. And I think that Tennessee can do the majority of those things. So I like Tennessee in this one. It's going to be a wacky game. Even when one team's blowing out another, somebody always has a backdoor cover or, you know, nearly comes back and wins it by scoring a ton in the last 5 minutes and getting an onside kick like last year. I will take Tennessee to win, but Florida to cover. Give me 35 to, 28, 35 to 27, somewhere around there.
I love that this is a night game too on ESPN, and it's not that 3:30 CBS slot. I love that it's 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern on ESPN, nationally televised audience. And look, you guys make some great points. I love your score predictions. You both think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be close. I've been going back and forth all week. I really want to pick Florida in this one just because of history's on their side. I mean, 20 years since Tennessee has won down there. But I got to lean on, is Tennessee back? If they are, Josh Heupel has to win. I'm going Tennessee.
Like 30, Texas, come on.
I'm going Tennessee 31, Florida 24. I think it's a close one, but Tennessee pulls away late. So there you have it. I'm the tiebreaker. I'm the unofficial.
Let's get some more points, though, in this one. It could be a 3-point game, Gordy. Let's get some more points in this.
It's a running clock, Eric. We're losing possessions. Lane Kiffin's complaining about it. We're getting a possession and a half less per game. Like, well, Brandon doesn't care. Brandon's like, just eat that clock. Let's go. The more time
we favor my team. I love it. I don't care.
He is, of course, Brandon Olsen, Locked on Gators. Eric Cain, host of Locked on Vols. Guys, best of luck to both your teams. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And, of course, thank you guys for making us your first listen every day, whether you're listening to Locked on Vols, Locked on Gators, or Locked on SEC. And shout out to our everydayers. Keep coming back every day. We'll be reacting to this one throughout the next couple days. Guys, best of luck to your teams. Thanks so much for your time.